So I was just laying on my bed reading some Twilight, and my girlfriend was heading out the door because she said my addiction of Twilight was ruining our relationship, whatever that means. So she was heading out the door, and she looked back and she told me, she's like, "Hey, Kyrie, do you need anything or want to stop me before I go out?" And you know what I told her? I said, "Yes. If you can find me a game that allows me to play as a vampire like the ones that are in this book, I'd be happy, and then you can leave." So she left, and I found this game, Nosgoth. So this game is developed by Psyonix, and it is a competitive, team-based, human versus vampire, free-to-play multiplayer game set in a dark and brutal fantasy world. It's kind of similar to Gears of War, kind of, in terms of movement and how the combat plays out, but the core mechanics of the game are very similar to like Overwatch or Paladins or Team Fortress 2, for example. And just like any game that I will be reviewing on this channel or have reviewed on this channel, it is free to play right now on Steam. It was released January 21st, 2015, and if you're looking for it and can't find it, the tags on it are Early Access, Action, Free to Play, and Vampire. I think if you were to type Vampire, this would be one of the only games on there. While the reviews in my experience don't normally dictate that this game is going to be pay to win, it definitely has some of those aspects to it. A lot of the things that you can unlock are cosmetic items, as well as different armor and abilities within the game. Now, the other classes at the time of this recording was locked for me, so I was only able to play 2 of the vampire classes and 2 of the human classes, so my experience is a little bit limited. But the first thing that I did was I checked out the store, and it seemed like a lot of these items are, as I said, purely cosmetic based or something of the sort, where it would help, and for my playstyle it might do great, but it doesn't necessarily reek of pay to win. Now, the gameplay is fast and, well, to be honest, addicting. I really found myself trying to get better at my class or get better at the type of vampire that I was. And to me, the learning curve was pretty high, and that means that it would give a good few hours of gameplay. Even if the game is not necessarily for you, if you like mastering something, then this game will definitely provide that. The first few characters that you have unlocked when you first start the game are going to be someone that uses a crossbow repeater. It's kind of like a machine gun, as well as you get a sort of flashbang, as well as like a type of spell that you throw on the ground, and then it creates fire. It's kind of like a Molotov. Now, the other person uses similar to like a grenade launcher, and this person is, in my opinion, by far stronger than the other one. They have the same health points and whatnot, but this one was definitely easier to use, as well as being further away from the action and being able to toss in grenades and everything of that sort. Now, over on the vampire side, you have one that's kind of like a quick in and out damage ability, and it's really fun. I can jump down, and then I also have like this little whiplash thing that is my main attack, as well as I have a spell that allows me to take less damage to be able to not only move quicker, but evade fire. Now, the other guy is kind of like a big brute vampire guy. He's the tank character. He can take a lot of damage, but does not deal quite as much as the other character. His ability is to sort of rush in where you pin the person to a wall, and the other one is where you kind of ignore the pain of what's happening in order to get out of a bad situation. Now, the number one thing that I like and honestly dislike about this game is that it is heavily team-oriented. If you go off on your own, the game does not reward you in any sense. Now, you will just get steamrolled by the other team if you spread out as humans, and if you don't attack all at the same time as vampires, you will, again, get completely wrecked by the other team. Now, for me, as someone who normally queues up solo, it's kind of difficult if the other teammates on your team is not doing the right thing at the right time, and it kind of limits your play experience, at least in my experience, where if I'm teamed up with a bad team, even if I'm doing well, I'm not going to be rewarded for it, and I'm not going to be able to take down the humans where my initial individual skill will shine through. That does not happen in this game. Now, for someone who likes to queue up with friends, that's a great thing. And the two major downsides of this game is, number one, the levels or maps, if you will, are way too generic. They all seem like a medieval castle, even the ones when it's supposed to be like a courtyard or something. The maps are more or less using the same prefabs, and for me that's a downside because it's just not fun. Like, I like going into different areas and using different things to my advantage, and ultimately it just seems like the same game over and over, where if you like the game, that's not going to be a problem, but for me it was. Now, another thing too is that while this game's graphics are good for what it is, it's not necessarily impressive, and I was having a little bit of a hard time running it on my computer. I was running about 45 to 50 frames per second, and when things got really crazy, it really dropped down. And that's something that I hate to see in a game, and honestly causes me not to want to play it. But as a quick recap, the game is tons of fun. It's definitely a good time waster if you don't have one already. And I mean, what can you say? It's free. You can't really expect too much from a free game, except for, well, I mean, I'm doing a review of it, so I should just shut up right now. If you're looking for a team-based shooter and you like Gears of War's combat, this game is definitely for you. The lore of the game, as well as the actual game itself, is fun to play, and I would definitely suggest checking it out. If you want to play this game with me, I will leave my Steam in the description box below, and we can maybe hook up. We can talk about some things and maybe have some sweet deep conversations with some 420s. Thank you so much for watching the video, and for everyone who likes and subscribes on this video, I will give you a brand new house with something in the basement. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's something. So if you like or subscribe, it'll show up the deed in your mailbox 5 minutes after. And until next time, my name's Kyrie.